All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our noonday Bible study. As you know, for the last couple of weeks, we've been going through this book called The Hard Words of Jesus. And we're looking at some of the stuff that Jesus said that might be difficult. And so this week, we're looking at Matthew 10, really looking at the back end of 5 and verse 6, if that makes any sense. So we'll get to it. But anyways, one of the things that we find in the Gospels is that Jesus is presented as being very caring, being very loving. And this particular text challenges that to a certain degree. So we're going to wrestle with it and see what happens. All right. So let's see. Matthew 10 and 6. Why does it never work? Okay. Somebody read... this is Matthew 10, 5 through 15 for us.
Matthew 10, verse 5 through 15. I'll be reading out of the NIV. I can see this text.
Okay.
These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter into towns of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, preach this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not take along any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take no bag for the journey, or extra tunic, or sandals, or a staff. For the worker is worthy of his keep. Whatsoever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person there and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your blessings. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. I tell you the truth, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. That's the end of verse 15.
All right. So in context, we read the text in context. Jesus is sending out his 12 disciples, right? Let me rephrase that. He's sending out the apostles, right? I try to delineate between apostles and disciples because the 12 was like the inner circle, but there were other people who followed around him. If you don't believe me, there's another account of this where Jesus sends them out 2 by 2. He sends out 70. And so there were more people who followed Jesus than the 12. Okay.
Yes.
I always get the image that it's just Jesus and Peter, the 12, and they all hanging out and everybody else is kind of on the outside. They were all together. There was definitely like some of the women were likely the ones who were funding Jesus's ministry. But these particular 12, representing 12 tribes of Israel, were the ones who he spent time with, right? That was his strategy. He had these guys he poured into. Okay. But look what he tells them. He tells them to go out. When they go, that they shouldn't bring any clothes, no extra gold, no extra tunic. They're basically going to trust and rely on the help of strangers. And if people don't accept them, to knock the dust off their feet, which is symbolically saying you are left to your own devices, right? You're going to be on your own. You're going to deal with this on your own. And then after that, it says more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than that city. All right. We're going to come back to this a little bit, but I'm glad this is out here. But the verse we're looking at is verse number 5 and verse number 6. It says what? Do not go on a road to the Gentiles, and do not enter the city of the Samaritans, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So this particular saying could be seen as harsh because it seems like Jesus does not care about the Gentiles nor the Samaritans, right? He specifically tells them, do not go there. And we're going to look at that a little bit deeper here later, but I just want to paint the picture of what the verse we're talking about. All right. So who were the Gentiles and the Samaritans? All right, I got this from BibleStudyTools.com. Just going through and looking at the definition of Gentiles. Somebody read the Gentile definition for us.
Gentiles, meaning in general all nations except the Jews. In course of time, the Jews began more and more to pride themselves on their peculiar privileges. It acquired unpleasant associations and was used as a term of contempt. In the New Testament, the Greek word Hellenes, meaning literally Greek, as in Acts 16:1, Acts 16:3, 18 and 17, Romans chapter 1, verse 14, generally denotes any non-Jewish nation.
All right, so if you think about it, okay, so the Gentiles, what is it? Just any other nations outside of the Jews, right? Okay. Does anybody know what makes you technically a Jew by definition, by the biblical definition? I should have looked this up. This is a good question. Anybody know?
Circumcision?
That was an outward sign, but okay, how were you born into the Jewish faith?
You had to be of the lineage of Abraham.
Okay, but there's a particular party of your family that makes you a Jew.
The male.
Actually, it's the female. You're not a Jew unless your mother's Jewish.
Wow.
I'll find the text here in a second. Because it actually makes logical sense. Daddy could run around here and have babies with all these different nations, right? Right. So, but if your mother's Jewish, right, that makes you Jewish. So, because what's the actor's name? I think Ben Stiller was saying he's technically not Jewish. I mean, he's not Jewish by ethnicity, right? He could be Jewish by faith. You got to understand. That's, let's see. You can be Jewish by ethnicity, like born into it, or you could be Jewish by faith. Now, they even in the Bible talked about welcoming people who recognize the God of the Jews. You could come and be a part of the tribe. If you think about people who left Egypt, not all of them were ethnically Jewish, if that makes any sense, right? They're, some of the Egyptians, some of the Jewish people had married some of the Egyptians and other cultures. So when the people who left Egypt weren't 100%, quote unquote, use that word Jewish, okay? But we'll get into that later. All right. We'll get into that another time. All right. But anybody who are outside of the Jews, they called Gentiles and was not looked upon rightly. Now the Samaritans are a different story. So let's read about the Samaritans. Somebody read this.
Samaritans, the name given to the new and mixed inhabitants whom Esarhaddon, BC 677, the king of Assyria, brought from Babylon and other places and settled in the cities of Samaria instead of the original inhabitants whom Sargon, BC 721, had removed into captivity. 2 Kings 7:24. Compare Ezra 4:2, Ezra 4:9, and Ezra 4:10. These strangers compare Luke 17:18. Amalgamated with the Jews still remain and gradually abandoned their old idolatry and adopted partly the Jewish religion. After the return from the captivity, the Jews in Jerusalem refused to allow them to take part with them in rebuilding the temple, and hence sprang up an open enmity between them. They erected a rival temple on Mount Gerizim, which was, however, destroyed by a Jewish king BC 130. Then they built another at Shechem. The bitter enmity between the Jews and the Samaritans continued in the time of our Lord. The Jews had no dealings with the Samaritans, John 4:9. Compare Luke 9:5-2 and Luke 9:5-3. Our Lord was in contempt, called a Samaritan, John 8:48. Many of the Samaritans early embraced the gospel, John 4:5-42, and Acts 8-25, 9:31, 15:3. Of these Samaritans, there still remains a small population of about 160 who all reside in Shechem, where they carefully observe the religious customs of their fathers. They are the smallest and oldest sect in the world.
All right. So the Samaritans are a little tricky, okay? Samaritans were the Jewish people after the captivity, after the Assyrians came in and took over. The Samaritans were the ones they left behind, because the Samaritan kind of, the way they did business is they would come take over an area, and then they would move people from one part of their area of control to another, right? Because it's easy to subdue people when they're in a land they're not accustomed to, right? It's hard to beat people in a land they're accustomed to. We'll use America, for example. It's easier to uproot Native Africans and bring them to America where they know nothing of the land than to try to subdue the natives that were here. Because why? They know the land, they know where to go, they know how to escape and invade. It just was harder. So that was a trick that the Assyrians would do. They would move people from one part of their country to another. So when they took the best and the brightest of Jews and took them to Samaria, they brought another group of people in to where the Jewish people were. And the ones they left behind end up intermarrying with those people and started their own. They held on to some of their Jewish roots, but they mixed it with a lot of the pagan stuff. And so when Ezra and Nehemiah came back, they basically was like, they're like, oh, we're Jews. They was like, no, we don't know who you backwoods people are. Y'all not Jewish, right? And so we need to remember that they're they related, but they don't. The Jewish people felt like we're the pure blooded Jews. These old mutts, mixed blood folks, we ain't fooling with them like that. And so that's kind of what caused the beef between Samaritans and Jews. And so next, okay, so let's keep going. Did Jesus hate these people? All right, hate's probably a strong word. I should have said not like, but I'll fix it later. All right, so let's look. We won't read the whole account of the woman at the well. Let's just talk through the woman at the well. John 4. Most of us are familiar with the story of the woman at the well, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Jesus did have some dealings with non-Jewish people. They called her the woman at the wells. What do they call her? She is a Samaritan, the Samaritan woman, right? And Jesus meets her at this well. Now, I will say this. I have been doing some reading and come to find out that maybe Sister Girl's issues might not be as bad as we might have thought. That we might have painted her in a negative light for no reason. I won't get into that. I won't get into 100% of that now. But so she comes to this well. She's at the well in the middle of the day. And now notice when Jesus, he sends his disciples on, but he sits there and he talks to her, right? Now, it would have been uncommon in Jesus's day for a Jew to talk to a Samaritan at all, right? But it also would have been uncommon for a rabbi, a teacher to talk to a woman. Generally, rabbis didn't even speak to their own wives in public, if that made any sense. Don't get me wrong. Anyways, and so he begins to have this conversation with her about her dealings and what she had going on. And she runs back and she tells everybody in the village, which is obviously a Samaritan village, about Jesus. They beg Jesus to stay. Jesus stays, and they tell her, we believed initially because of you, but now we believe for ourselves. All right. So it doesn't seem like, Jesus seems like he does have some deals with Samaritans, right? He deliberately he stops at this well. He stays when they beg him to stay to hear the good news. He's doing what we think Jesus should do, right? He's trying to save some lost people. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Then we remember, let's read the story in Matthew 8, 5 through 13. Now, I want you to, I put this down there on purpose, the Samaritan slave, because I think we try to sugarcoat it and make it seem like this was like they always say, oh, his assistant or servant. No. This was his slave. Okay. So Matthew 8, 15 through 13. Somebody has that?
Yes, I have it.
All right.
When Jesus entered Capernaum, a Roman officer met him and begged for help. Sir, my servant is sick in bed at home, unable to move and suddenly suffer terribly. I will go and make him well, Jesus said. Oh, no, sir, answered the officer. I do not deserve to have you come into my house. Just give the order and my servant will get well. I too am a man under the authority of superior officers, and I have soldiers under me. I order this one, go, and he goes. And I order that one, come, and he comes. And I order my slave, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was surprised and said to the people, follow him, I tell you. I have never found anyone in Israel with faith like this. I assure you that many will come from the east and the west and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the feast of the kingdom of heaven. But those who shall be in the kingdom will be thrown out into the darkness, where they will cry and gnash their teeth. Then Jesus said to the officer, go home, and what you believe will be done for you. And the officer's service was healed that very moment.
All righty. So this is a centurion, right? He would be a Roman officer. This would be the equivalency. So this would be a Gentile person, right? Jesus is willing to go and heal his slave, correct?
Yes.
He's willing to go do it. But the centurion, centurion would have been a Roman officer. Century would have been like 100 people. And the other account, I forgot the other account of this says that he helped build the synagogue for the people. So the Jewish leaders was going to take Jesus to him because they felt like he deserved this blessing. But either way you have it, these are two people that Jesus specifically helps who are both a Jew, both a Gentile and a Samaritan, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now let's go down to Matthew 15. Let's read Matthew 15, 21 through 28.
Jesus left that place and went off to the territory near the city of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman who lived in the region came to him. Son of David, she cried out, have mercy on me, sir. My daughter has a demon and is in a terrible condition. But Jesus did not say a word to her. His disciples came to him and begged him, "Send her away. She is following us and making all this noise." Then Jesus replied, "I have been sent only to the lost sheep of the peoples of Israel." At this, the woman came and fell at his feet. "Help me, sir." I said, "Take the children food and throw it to the dog." That's true, sir, she answered, "but even the dogs eat the leftovers that falls from their master's table." So Jesus answered her, "You are a woman of great faith. What you want will be done to you." And at that very moment, her daughter was healed.
All right. So now we see, and so I preached about this and talked about this a little while ago. Jesus calls this woman a dog. Now we can try to, if you read, commentaries will tell you that the word he used for dog is like puppy, right? It's like my dog, you've seen Teddy, right? You've seen Teddy. Teddy's cute, right? But no matter how you slice it, he still calls the woman a dog. Right? It's in the text. I'm not making this up.
I'm trying to see that, Pastor.
Right?
It's in verse 26.
Verse 26. He says, he replied, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs." That's what the NIV says, toss it to their dogs. And loaded, but I noticed though, Sister Green and everybody else, it wasn't that he called her a dog. Go back to the text. She's calling out to him. What does she call him? Lord, Son of David.
Son of David.
Which is what? That's
a messianic name.
That's a messianic name. She was giving him all due respect, right? Have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession. What did Jesus do?
He didn't answer her.
Look at verse 23. What does it say he did? He ignored her.
Right.
This woman's crying out to Jesus, saying, and she's being respectful. She recognizing him as Lord and calling him by his messianic title, and Jesus ignoring her, right? Let's go further. Then the disciples urged him, "Send her away because she keeps calling after us." Now, I just recently did some research on this. This could be them saying, "Hey, Jesus, just do what she wants, so she'll leave us alone." Or this could be Jesus, send that chick away. We tired of hearing her scream. You know what I'm saying? Could be either one. So however you want to deem the 12, that's how you would view them. Okay. But either way, she's still crying out. Yes.
I was just reading here, and it was saying that 26 to 28 says Jesus was not degrading the woman by using this term. He was reflecting the Jewish attitude, or as in contrast to his own. He said, but the woman did not argue. Instead, using Jesus' choice of words, she agreed to be considered a dog as long as she could receive God's blessing for her daughter.
Yeah, we were getting there, Brother Watson, but thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was gonna walk through the whole part. Then I was gonna go there,
but before we go there, I want to address why the disciples say, "Get her away." Because I'm thinking that they were somewhat offended with that title. I mean, the
Messianic
Son of
title?
David.
No, the only reason I say they weren't, because if you remember in Sunday school, remember when James and John asked to come into Jesus's, they one want to be on the left hand and one on the right. Yeah. The view of the Messiah in those days was not the suffering Messiah. The view then was the Messiah was going to be a warrior king like David. He was going to run in there and kick butt and take names. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this is why Son of David, they're glad that she's confirming that, because that means when Jesus gets elevated to be this warrior king, we're going to be in his court. See what I'm saying? So they had no problem with that.
Okay.
So
No.
but I don't think so. What I think they had a problem was, one, I told you, men didn't even talk to their wives in public. You got this random woman screaming after them, and she's of the wrong ethnicity, right? And she's from the wrong side of the tracks, okay? And she's hollering after them. Imagine you and your wife walking down the street, and some random woman's like, Larry Williams, Larry. I'm pretty sure it could be too many steps for Sister Williams looking at you like, who is that, right?
Where's she come from?
You're gonna have some explaining to do, right?
A lot.
But she might have been trying to say, hey, you helped me. I'll give you a good example of this. Prime example of this. I don't know if I told the story. I was in San Diego and I was getting ready to take out my trash. And I hear somebody screaming like, oh my God, I can't stand this, right? And I'm looking around like, and I see this young lady going to a car, and I see her like, hitting the steering wheel, and I can tell she's crying. And then something's like, go talk to her. And I was like, ooh, no. That's in my brain, that is not the move. Like, that is not what I should be doing. I should leave her alone and let her have her moment. But I felt the unction to go talk to her, right? So I go and talk to her. She tells me her and her boyfriend were having an argument. I calm her down. I had another little puppy at the time. He go run, jump in the car. She's playing with the puppy, so she calms down. And I said, hey, I'm a preacher. I live right here. Here's my car. If I was like, I prayed with her, and then she went on about her business, right? And I didn't think nothing of it. So we go on to church about 2-3 weeks later, right? I ain't seen this girl since then. We get to we pull up to the stop sign near my house to get on the main drag to go to the church. This is in San Diego. She pulls who else but the girl I was praying for pulls up beside me. It's like, hey, I've been looking for you. I've been trying to figure, I thought you were an angel or something. I was like, no, not an angel. But I've been trying to find you. Are you headed to church now? Yeah, I follow you. So of course, First Lady Boston is looking at me. Like, who is this, right? Who is this clamoring after you, right? And so, but that young lady did come follow us to church and join the church that day. So that ended up being a pretty good story. But no, that was but imagine somebody yelling after you like that, just minding their own business, and she just screaming, Son of David, have mercy upon me. So I'm thinking that's why they're telling him. Now, like I said, I've just recently learned that the Greek there is kind of interesting. And so they could have been saying Jesus sent her away. We tired of hearing her mouth. Or they could have been saying, just give her what she wants and she'll leave us alone. You see what I'm saying? So it depends how you want to view the disciples. They could have been saying, hey, whatever she asking for, can you please give it to her? Because this woman is not. Because I can imagine she's not just saying, hey, Jesus, hey, can I get your child sick? Your baby is sick. What wouldn't you do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as Brother Watson alluded to, and we can go ahead and jump there, Jesus is is using this moment to teach his disciples, right? He calls her what the Jewish people would have called her, right? And he wants to drive home the point, if this woman is a dog by your standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at what she's willing to go through to demonstrate her faith. And it also reflects on us, like, how much are we willing to endure for our faith? She didn't care, right? As Brother Watson read, she didn't care that he called her a dog, right? She even uses his own words against him. Like, I don't know anybody else who gets one up on Jesus in the Bible. Anybody else know anybody else? Anybody can think of anybody else who got one up on Jesus? She's the only person in the text that gets up and gets a leg up on Jesus in this conversation, right? And like Brother Watson said, I think that was on purpose. Because if you think about it, the disciples, if they were of the current mindset, right? They didn't think she would be worthy of a blessing, correct? So what better way to drive that point home than to show how she went through all of that and demonstrated her faith? Jesus is trying to show them that your faith is what's going to be the key to opening the doors to the kingdom as this new kingdom comes forward, right? It's not your Jewishness. As you see, what we'll talk a little bit about Paul later. It's not that, but it's your faith that's going to open the door. Okay. But thanks, Brother Watson, for reading that.
Sure.
All right. But why? Did he not care about them? Now, I want to read this account of the Syrophoenician woman again, but I want to read it in Mark. Okay. So Mark 7:24-30. Somebody have that?
Mark 7.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I hard finding Mark?
24 to 30.
Yeah, start at 24, go down to verse 30.
And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into an house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. And the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Jesus said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto the dogs. And she answered and said unto him, yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. And when she was come to her house, she found the devil gone out, and her daughter laid upon the bed.
All right. So we see. So
Did I read the wrong thing?
no, that was right. I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounded. I mean, it was matching up what I was reading. So.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
No, I think I don't know which version of the Bible you read.
Oh, it's the New King James Version.
Okay, that's why. Yeah. So the only
Okay.
difference I saw was devil. Is
You on track, Sister Ray.
Yeah. You
Okay.
All right.
It was sounding good to me, so
Yeah.
I just,
Right. No, you were good.
okay.
So okay. So we see now look now this time they call her a Syrophoenician woman, right?
Yeah,
This particular text says she was called a Greek. She was Greek or Syrophoenician. And Jesus is in a house. She goes to the house and falls down in front of Jesus. Now, some scholars believe that in the previous account, the daughter could have been there. The daughter could have been present because he just says to her, and we just no count we just read in Matthew, he just tells her, your faith has caused your daughter to be healed, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like the father who brought his son, right, to the disciples to get healed, right? He brought he brought the kid with him. But that's either here or there. But she finds it, because Jesus, if I remember correctly, if you remember in context, Jesus is trying to hide out. He's kind of tired of fighting with the Pharisees or the Sadducees. So he goes to this area where they wouldn't go. And even there, this woman finds him, same thing. Woman finds him, falls down and says, she eventually, like, she gets the healing that she asked for. But again, like we just seen, she had to jump through some hoops. Okay. But now let's show some other examples. Somebody flip to Luke 8:26-39. I know y'all probably like, Pastor, you gotta flip it all through the Bible today. Good for you. That's why it's called Bible study. All right. So Luke 8:26-39. Okay, hold on. Actually, we won't go through all of this. We'll paraphrase this one. This is the man filled with demons, right?
Yes.
Now, I want you to read verse 26, though, Sister Green. Go ahead, read verse 26.
Jesus and his disciples sailed on over to the territory of Jerusalem.
Gadarene.
Huh?
Mine says Gadarenes, but
It's,
Gadarene,
Yeah.
which is across the lake from Galilee.
yeah.
All right.
That's all.
So, no, that's fine. So this area, again, would have been, this area was outside of the Jewish. I'm lifting that up because to show you, this happened outside of Jesus' normal Jewish nature. Here's how you can tell. What kind of farmers were these people? What kind of animals did they herd? If you remember the story, Jesus sends all these demons into what? A herd of what?
Pigs.
Pigs.
Yeah, pigs. Okay.
Would Jews be dealing with pigs?
None.
No,
Anybody know why?
Because of the
it
Levitical law.
was
There you go.
unclean.
There you go. Levitical law, a
Yeah.
good Jew would not be dealing with some pigs. Okay.
It was unclean.
All
Yeah.
right. All righty. So he goes to this area and casts out all these demons. Now understand, he doesn't necessarily cast out the demons because the man asked. He can't ask because he's so possessed with demons. But in the other accounts, I'm not sure if it's Mark or Matthew, he begs to go with Jesus. Right? After he gets healed, he begs to go to Jesus. And Jesus tells him, he says, no, stay over here and give, and testify to what I've done. He basically commissions him to go be a evangelist, right? Go tell your story, right? Go around and telling people about who I am. So he obviously thought this dude, he obviously thought enough of this man to heal him from these from these demons, and to commission him to go out and preach the gospel, basically preach the good news, right? All right.
Pastor, don't you think Jesus may have seen the devil in him, because he asked him?
Well,
what was
yeah.
his name?
Remember now, the demons come running to Jesus and said, "What would you have? What? Don't torment us, son of David." Right? They know who he is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they recognize who he was.
Mhm.
All right, let's flip over to Luke 17, 11 through 19. We might not have to deal too much in that because the good Reverend talked about this a couple weeks ago, right? Luke 17, 11 through 19, the 10 lepers, right?
Yeah.
Now, just remember, when we talk about leprosy, understand leprosy is not just Hansen's disease. Hansen's disease, your face swell up and stuff fall off. Any skin disease in that time was considered leprosy, right? And lepers lived outside of the community, lived in these colonies because you couldn't live around other people because you considered unclean, right? If you read through the Bible, Jesus touched a bunch of lepers, right? Which was contrary to, so any skin disease, so like eczema would have been considered leprosy. You get what I'm saying? I think if you were crazy, I don't know if that's true. I ain't gonna say that because that might not be true. I was gonna say if you crazy ashy. But if they did say talk about having white spots on the skin, hair, some weird bumps or stuff, that would be considered leprosy, and you would have to go outside the camp. Now, it makes sense to us now, understanding about microbiology and things of that nature, right? When I was in the service, especially when I lived in the barracks, we had to clean all the time. Because if one person got sick, he can get everybody sick because we live in such close quarters. So they spend a lot of time making sure that you're clean and tidy because of that, right? And so the 10 lepers, they called Jesus by his title, Son of David, have mercy upon us. And all he tells them to do what? Go show yourself to the priest, right? And as they're going to the priest, one of the lepers looks down and realizes his skin has been cleaned. Because the thing with leprosy was, it was an obvious thing, right? If you had it, you could tell. It wasn't like something you could hide, right? It was a pretty obvious disease in most cases. So he comes back and sees his skin clean, and what does he do?
He threw
He
himself at
turns around
Jesus.
and go back.
And he says
He goes back.
He thanks Jesus. And what does Jesus say? Verse 17. Somebody read verse 17.
Jesus spoke up. There were 10 men who were healed. Where are the other 9?
Read 18.
Why is this foreigner the only one who comes back to give thanks to God? And Jesus said to him, get up and go. Your faith has made you well.
Now notice, Jesus takes the time to point out, much like he did with the centurion, to point out this man's faith, right? He healed 10, but only 9, but only 1 came back and said
The
what?
only one grateful.
He came back and showed his gratitude.
Yes.
All right. So Jesus didn't Jesus didn't care that they were, he did care about them. He did think they were worthy. So why does Jesus say that, tell his disciples not to go to Samaritans? Anybody got a wild guess as to why he told them not to go to the Samaritan? Or the Gentiles? Why did he tell his disciples in Matthew 10 not to go to the Samaritans or the disciples? Anybody got any wild guesses? No. Anybody can think of a reason why Jesus wouldn't want them to go to the Jews and go to the Samaritans or the Gentiles?
Because they was ungrateful people?
No. It's because of timing. I had it on the screen. I thought somebody was going to catch
Sure.
it.
I see it, but
Timing. Timing, right?
Looking at the screen.
Yeah, I know. But it's timing.
I was reading in the Bible trying to see if I
I have it up there as a hint. No, it's all about timing. Okay.
Okay.
And we're gonna go back and look at this. We're gonna look at this count of the Syrophoenician woman again. I brought it up on the screen again. Look at what he says, right? He says, he tells her what? I'm supposed to, first, he says, look, in verse 27, first I should feed the children, my own family, the Jews. Jesus had a process in how he was trying to work stuff. If you look through Jesus's life, you'll start to see there was a method to the madness. He didn't just randomly do stuff, right? He had a purpose behind what he did. So what we find in that text is Jesus has a plan for the Gentiles and the Samaritans, but first he was supposed to come to the house of Israel. Why? They were God's chosen people, right?
Yeah.
So he gives them first right of refusal, right? It's like in your own family. If you have something you're getting rid of, don't you generally call people in your family first to see if they need it?
yes.
Right? You call them first to see if they need it, or they're going to miss out on, or, you know what I'm saying? Because you want to at least give them the first right of refusal. Correct?
Right.
Then, and so that's what Jesus was doing. So Jesus did not care, was not against the Gentiles. Let's read Matthew 28, 16 through 20. What does that say? Anybody know what this is?
The Great Commission.
There you go. What does the Great Commission say, Reverend Williams?
Go ye into all of the world, into the othermost parts of the world, and it names the order.
Yeah, it says, I'm going to read it for us.
Right.
Then the 11 disciples left for Galilee, going up to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When he saw them, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. Now, some scholars believe that all nations could mean of all Gentiles. Remember, Gentiles were anybody outside of the Jewish faith, right? So you really could translate that. I mean, so one scholar was saying you could translate it that way, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? It's not about race, creed, color, nationality, ethnic background. It's about what? Having faith in God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And then he told them to do what? Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands that I've given. and be this year, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. So that was Jesus's plan. Jesus's plan was to go to the Jews first and then open it up to everybody else, right? All right. More examples of this. Somebody, let's flip over to Acts. Acts chapter 1, verse number 8. What does Jesus say in Acts chapter 1:8?
1:8.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Holy Spirit come upon you, you will be filled with power, and you will be witnesses for me in Jerusalem and all the Judeans and Samaritan and to the end of the earth.
So he said you're supposed to go from Jerusalem, which was the capital of the Jewish people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Into Judea, the extended area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Samaria, and all the ends of the earth. That was the plan. There was a method to the madness, right? Take the gospel to the Jews first and then to the rest of the people, right? Think about it. That's why the miracle in Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 6 is so important, right? What happens in Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 6? What is the first miracle people see of the disciples?
Acts chapter 2, 1 through 6.
People start speaking in what?
Tongues.
Why was that so? Let's read why that was so important. Acts chapter 2, 1 through 6 says, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like a blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and rested upon them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Now they were staying in Jerusalem, God-fearing Jews from every. Remember, this was during the time of one of the great Jewish festivals. So people would have been coming to Jerusalem from all over the known world at that time, for lack of better words, right? People would travel for certain festivals. I forgot which one this one is. Is it weeks or booths? I can't think which festival this is going on during this time, but people would have came from all over to be in this town, right? Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard the sound, they came together in bewilderment because each one of them heard them speaking in his own language. Why would God make the first miracle of people speaking the gospel in so many different languages if it's only meant to go to one group? Right? It's all about timing. Even Paul in Acts chapter 17, verses 1 through 4. Paul often would start off where? When he started preaching the gospel. Where would he go first? When he started to plant a church, where would he start his process at?
What's that?
The Apostle Paul?
Yeah, Paul. When Paul would go to a town, a new
in
town.
the synagogue.
He would start in the synagogue.
The synagogue.
Right? Because
that's where the Jewish community was.
There you go. But if they rejected him, then where he would go?
By the river, where them women was holding a prayer meeting.
There you go.
Go to the streets.
But that's what I'm saying. He would take it to the other people, but he would start off in the synagogue because he would easily be able to connect with them, right? Yeah. So oftentimes we make our evangelistic strategy so hard, but start with the people you can have the most influence with first, right? That's why he went to the synagogue. Paul was a Jew. He said he was a Jew of Jews, basically, right? He said he was circumcised on the 8th day, studied under Gamaliel. Like he had the credentials to be to stand in the synagogue with some authority and talk, right? So he started with people he knew would understand what he was saying. Then he expanded it outwards. So even Paul is in some ways employing the same ideology that Jesus did, right? Starting with the Jewish people and then working itself out. All right. Any questions? Pretty good. Any questions, comments, anything jump out to you from this lesson?
Yeah, I had never heard it talk the way you brought it out to us today. This was all kind of new. I was a part of it to hear all of these things come together like this. Never heard it taught this way. Yes.
This is why your pastor going to school, so I can learn me something.
Okay. Well, thank you for going to school and teaching us.
Well, look, I tell people I want to get educated so I can try to take this heady stuff and bring it down.
Yeah,
people can
yeah.
actually receive it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I do like this. I've been liking this series. It's kind of a little bit outside of what I normally like taking a text and just walking through it. But in some ways, this is good because it answers. To me, sometimes I think Bible study needs to take some time to answer questions. And I'm not talking about just like theological questions, but life questions. Because you read it, because here's the thing. Our young people are being bombarded with people who know this much.
A little bit.
And because they present it in such they present it with such authority, it makes it seem like they know what they were talking about. Give you an example.
Yeah.
I was on TikTok last night, and there was this one guy. Actually, you know what? Thank all of you for watching. For those of you watching online, come visit us at St. Mark, 2311 East Illinois Avenue in Dallas, Texas. God bless you. Thank you. Goodbye. Hold on.